The inauguration of the American president is often a time of great solemnity and also joyous celebration. One can expect that Barack Hussein Obama will provide a stirring speech and a memorable speech, and also afterwards in the inauguration balls and other festivities, a star-studded cast of many individuals will have a great time as they celebrate this new president. The inauguration of Barack Obama ushers in really what many people say a new period in American politics, not just because he's African American, but also because he represents a new generation. Many people see him as akin to John F. Kennedy, kind of separating the Eisenhower administration, the old way and the old views, with a brand new view and change in the air. It's important also to remember that this is the first inauguration since 9/11. First formal inauguration. And as a result of this, there's going to be an enormous amount of security at this event. President Obama will be the first recipient of a brand new limousine, which will be bulletproof and bomb-proof, kind of like a fancy tank. American soldiers and police will line the parade route, and it is unlikely that President Obama will get out of the car as Jimmy Carter did and Bill Clinton in walkaways, because this is not the time for that kind of openness. Because the inauguration is such an important event in our democratic system, I thought I'd give you a little bit of a background of how this whole process evolves. So let's go through some of the major highlights. George Washington, of course, our first president, was the first to use the term in "So help me God," as I say, as he promised to support the Constitution and uphold the Constitution. And then, of course, afterwards, many people say he kissed the Bible, again pledging his linkage between a deity and the American Constitution. Thomas Jefferson was the first president to be inaugurated in Washington, D.C. Obviously, the Capitol had not been built at that time, and it was just a very, very rudimentary series of buildings. The first inaugural ball occurred during the administration of James Madison and his wife Dolly Madison, and the White House was really not a place of great grandeur and opulence. In fact, Dolly Madison hung her laundry in what is now the major stateroom in the White House. The most raucous and controversial inauguration occurred during the administration of, or the beginning of the administration of, Andrew Jackson. The inaugural balls were filled with fistfights and drunkenness and general mayhem, as many of the Western farmers who were supportive of Andrew Jackson came to town looking for a good time, but also looking for jobs. Andrew Jackson was someone who started what is often called the spoil system of employing people who were his supporters. Probably the saddest of the inaugurations was William Henry Harrison, who gave an 8,500 word inaugural address, the longest ever, in extreme and bitter cold, caught pneumonia and died soon afterwards. A very, very tragic event. His vice president, John Tyler, became the first vice president then to succeed a president who has died in office. Also of great interest, because of Obama's African-American heritage, in 1865, African-Americans, as a result of the Emancipation Proclamation, were the first African-Americans, first former slaves to participate in the inaugural parade, a significant achievement. As we go into the Industrial Revolution and America becomes a major industrial power, we see some new changes. Warren Harding becomes the first president to drive to the inaugural in an automobile. Calvin Coolidge becomes the first president to have his inaugural address on radio. And of course, Franklin Delano Roosevelt becomes the first president who is headed for 4 terms in office. There's obviously an inauguration in 1933, but then 3 other taking of the oath by Franklin Delano Roosevelt. Keeping in this theme of high-tech or technological advances, Harry Truman becomes the first president to have his address broadcast nationwide over television. We get to John Kennedy, and we find that he is the first president to really bring a man of letters. Robert Frost reads his poetry. Bill Clinton continues that, and other presidents. Bill Clinton had Maya Angelou. read her poetry in a very stirring moment during Clinton's inauguration. And also men of religion. This time Bishop Robinson from New Hampshire, who's openly gay, will read a prayer, and Rick Warren, an evangelist minister from California, will also provide the invocation. The first woman to give the oath to the president occurred on Air Force One as District Judge Sarah Hughes administered the oath to Lyndon Johnson after the assassination of President John F. Kennedy. We get to the administration of Gerald Ford, and we find that he becomes the first unelected vice president to be inaugurated. He replaced Spiro Agnew, and then Richard Nixon resigned. We then have Ronald Reagan, who immediately after taking the oath of office found out that the hostages who had been held during the Carter administration for 444 days were released. That's kind of like the ultimate criticism and embarrassment of the Carter administration. And finally, we have Bill Clinton, who became the first president to have his inauguration on the internet uploaded there so that people can use, again, this high technology. What's most important, though, is that in our system, the president who leaves office gets on the Marine helicopter and flies off without great controversy and conflict, leaving the office to a new president, in this case Barack Obama. George W. Bush is headed to Dallas, Texas, and he has claimed that he is going to just stay out of the limelight and, of course, leave Barack Obama with enormous challenges, economic challenges, healthcare, global warming challenges, the war in Iraq and Afghanistan, and, of course, the terrorist threat. Excuse me. The administration of Barack Obama, though, is one that is accents change, and so in the tradition of John Kennedy, it can be expected that Barack Obama will bring new ideas and fresh approaches to dealing with the economy and dealing with all these other domestic and social issues. And one can only hope that the burden of office is one that Barack Obama will be able to handle. Most presidents get a honeymoon period. I think this will be the case as well, as the American people are hopeful that change will come about. We can only hope that this honeymoon period leads to a string of new approaches to the economy and, as I say, to these other domestic and international issues. We can only hope, though, that this transition, which has always been peaceful, will also be a successful one in terms of Barack Obama as the first African-American president, the first African-American president from a new generation, and the first African-American from a new generation who has to deal with problems that are of enormous size and enormous impact on our society. So we can only wish the new president good luck and hope that this inauguration bodes well for not only the new president, but the United States of America.